Alright everyone, so many funny things were happening at the Aretha Franklin funeral, from Bill Clinton oogling to Hillary Clinton needing help up 3 stairs by having people holding her up because she collapses randomly. But the cake was certainly taken by what ABC and NBC did with regards to Louis Farrakhan. Now what happened is here, during part of it, there were 4 people sort of in front, next to the bloated corpse, I guess, next to the totally not open coffin. Bill Clinton on one side, followed by Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. Then the 4th person was an interesting choice, Louis Farrakhan. Now, who is Louis Farrakhan? For those of you who don't know, he's basically the Black Richard Spencer. He's an identitarian. He believes in black nationalism. He is racist. He's also literally anti-Semitic. And says, very fiery things with regards to Israel and so forth. And generally speaking, people on the left like Louis Farrakhan. They like him a lot because he is, economically, I believe, is a leftist, basically. They actually do agree with him on a lot of things, but they don't want to be seen in public with him. So you have Louis Farrakhan here. So what do MSNBC and ABC do? Instead of showing what you would logically show, which is a centered shot, here's the body and here are these 4 people behind it, during singing Amazing Grace or whatever. Instead of showing that, they took it at an angle and panned it to the right so that Louis Farrakhan is out of screen. You can't see him there. So to the viewing audience on TV, all 10 people that were watching primarily live on ABC and MSNBC, they saw a reality that's totally different. They didn't see Louis Farrakhan there. It's a Stalinist-style tactic, in the most literal sense. This is why it's important that we have independent journalism, because obviously you get a lie by omission more than anything else. It's not in what's presented by the news media that's a lie so much as what they don't present. In the structure of an article, the juicy parts they don't want you to see are at the end of the article, because they know half the people will literally only read the title in the first paragraph. And so that's where they put, yeah, Trump did this and it's terrible. Right at the end they'll say, oh, by the way, the rest of our article is basically bullshit. Here's what actually happened. I've seen so many articles that follow that structure. On TV, the reality that you see is not always real. It's like that infamous picture. I posted this a few days ago. You have a picture of a soldier, I believe it was from Iraq. It's basically an Iraqi soldier. He's been injured or something. There are 2 U.S. soldiers. One of them is sort of on guard because he's an enemy soldier. The other one's giving him water. If you split that into 3 panes and you only show the left or the right, you get vastly different images of what's happening that can both be presented as truth if you're not in the know. In one image, it's a U.S. soldier about to commit a war crime. In another one, it's a humanitarian gesture by a very good U.S. soldier on this emaciated enemy. Now, if you see the true reality, it's a mixture of the 2. It's a mundane situation. We've captured this dude. Yeah, if he tries to leave, we will shoot him, but we're giving him aid because that's what you're supposed to do in combat. The dude's already incapacitated. He's basically half dead. We're giving him water. That's how they can skew your reality. It is pure propaganda. This should be seen just as funny, or as an inept attempt to whitewash the situation and remove a virulent, bitter individual from the scene because it's politically inconvenient. You don't want to show Bill Clinton next to Louis Farrakhan? I wonder why. At Aretha Franklin's live broadcast funeral that 100 million people are watching, you didn't want to show Louis Farrakhan in the audience because it might be raising some questions? My goodness. No, it should be seen as sinister. Then you get on to the funnier stuff, thankfully, for a little bit of humor here. Hillary Clinton, at one point, she's ascending onto the stage, is 3 stairs. I think that was at the end when people are sort of milling around. And she's got 2 people, one on either side, linking arms with her, practically dragging her up the stairs. It is clear at this point she can barely lift her legs. She can barely put one foot in front of the other on an incline. It's like when she was in India there for her health, having just a regular happy tourist visit. She slipped on that temple. She hurt her ankle. She was walking down the stairs of that temple. Now, she had 2 people again holding her, and she still slipped. And then she apparently slipped in the bathtub and cracked her head or something. That was a different report. And this follows not long after, the election itself, where on 9/11 itself, she's collapsing and has to be tossed into the back of her fucking campaign van like a sack of potatoes. And the back of the van looks like it's set up for medical procedures and shit. Hillary Clinton is clearly not well. It's good she didn't become president. The stress of the office would have killed her by now. I honestly believe that. I honestly believe that if she had become president, she wouldn't have served her first term. We would have ended up with Kaine being the president of the United States, Tim Kaine. Absolutely, I think so. I think that she just basically, she's like, well, no other Democrats qualified. This is the last hurrah. I just want to be president even if I die a week later of a massive hemorrhage or something. That's honestly what I think. Then we get Bill Clinton. And he sort of steals the show from his wife having to be dragged around everywhere by several people by oogling Ariana Grande's ass. And it's clear that that's what he's doing. He's looking around. He's trying to do that thing that Bill does where he knows that cameras are habitually on him. He knows he can only look at her ass for a minute. But he really wants to look at Ariana Grande's ass shaking in his face from 10 feet away. He wants to see every curve. He wants to imagine the smell because he's a pervert. So he's doing that thing where his mouth is always open for some reason now. And he's like looking around and then you can catch a few furtive glances at her ass. Yeah, absolutely. So here we have Bill Clinton, who's like in his mid-70s, I think. He's Googling this, like, what is she, like 20, 25-year-old ass. And it's just Bill being Bill. Like, at least it's not like Joe Biden. Joe Biden only does that when the people that are singing are of a certain age group that is younger than, it is more like Ariana Grande's target audience than Ariana Grande. And by the way, I couldn't even tell you like what she sings. I know she's a tween pop star. That's about all I know. I do know that on the younger side, considered at least by other people generally to be attractive. I don't know because I'm not Googling pictures. I'm not Bill Clinton, in other words, sitting there in the dark of my laptop in my sexless marriage. Yeah, it was pretty funny. But it's just Bill, it didn't even surprise anyone. Here's the problem. The former president, former governor of Arkansas, whatever. Arkansas, I think the state that Holt is from, by the way, which is really funny. It's like, hey, you spawned Bubba himself. It's just Bill being Bill. I think the most sinister thing that happened there is Louis Farrakhan being Stalin from the camera angle. This shouldn't be happening. Again, it really does corroborate like what Trump says, where they have a really tight, close-in shot of him during his rallies, whereas Fox will, some of these others that like him more, will pan out and show you the crowd size. So, you get the idea that the crowd is small. Whereas with Hillary Clinton, they did exactly the opposite. And they would deliberately, I swear to you, they were deliberately choosing their shots to make the rallies look packed. They did this in Iraq. Remember that famous picture of the crowd toppling the Saddam statue? And they're like, 10,000 people show up to topple it and hit it with their shoes. Then they showed you the actual shot. It was a couple hundred people. It's an underwhelming number. The rest were too afraid, I think, to show up and didn't like the occupation. Photography and videography are always used in propaganda. It's just like sound clips can be manipulated. Dude, I've had this happen to me with regards to that old video that I made that now circulates from Rational Wiki. It's selectively cut. There's a reason for that. You want to portray things as one-dimensional. You want to create a factual situation that doesn't exist. The factual situation seen by the TV audience of these two news services is that Louis Farrakhan wasn't there, but he was there. And he's also a racist, by their own, standards. I personally don't care because Farrakhan's older now. He seems to have calmed down some, but the dude really gets people's hackles up. He's from that era, from sort of the Duke and the Tom Metzger era, and largely agreed with these people, essentially deriding black people if they wanted togetherness instead of resegregation. He's like, well, we want our homeland stuff. Yeah, it sounds a little bit like an identitarian now, doesn't he? Which is why they don't want to show you him up on stage with kinder, gentler racist Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson. Trust me, they're more racist than Farrakhan. That's about all. Peace out.